Previously on Gears.
Anyway, okay, let's look at the world of Formula One. We'll start off with, a very dangerous incident that happened yesterday during the Grand Prix. It is our video of the day at balls.co.za as well. And, what happens in the pit lane is quite amazing. The gentleman's name is Paul Allen. He's sustained 2 broken ribs, a broken collarbone, and concussion when a loose wheel bounced down the pit lane and struck the left-hand side of his body. And believe you me, it was very scary. We've got a video. Here comes the video. If you haven't seen it, here it is. Mark Webber leaves the pit lane.
Where did it come from?
And watch the wheel. Watch the wheel. Bounce, bounce. Bang!
Out cold.
It is unbelievable how much energy was going through that wheel, or how much energy there was. Just watch it bounce down the pit lane. It was probably already doing 60 kilometers an hour.
Boom.
And
Out
knocked
cold.
the guy completely over. It was something that Gary and myself were talking about yesterday, and I mentioned a little bit earlier on the show as well today, is that all of the mechanics have got fireproofs on, they've got helmets on, they're well protected in the event of something going wrong. But the cameraman is there just carrying a camera, walking around in a T-shirt or a shirt. So I do think they're going to have to get something done in order just to try and make it less dangerous. Don't forget, you can catch Darren and his team 3 o'clock this afternoon. He's just leaving the studio. Ciao. So they're going to have to do something, because you can't just have a cameraman walking around there exposed to any kind of eventuality just to get the shot. Yet the mechanics who are changing wheel have full fireproof protection and helmets as well. So I think it's something they are going to have to look at. Now, wow, if you watched yesterday's Grand Prix, wasn't it just so completely different to the Silverstone Grand Prix? Did you watch it at all, Daisy?
I did, but then when the tennis started...
You flipped around. That's
Yeah.
no problem. But if you look at what happened at Silverstone, we had the 2 Mercedes-Benz that we know are very fast over 1 lap. And we know that they do struggle when they have very heavy fuel loads. But in Silverstone, yes, Lewis Hamilton had the tyre failure. That put paid to his race, but he managed to fight back to a brilliant 4th. This Grand Prix, he starts off on pole position, doesn't have a great start, and progresses just unfortunately to go backwards. That's all you can say. So why the big change from Silverstone to now in Germany? Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, let's just identify a couple of points that happened in Silverstone that led to these tyre failures. The most critical one of them was that Pirelli gave the teams the option to swap the tires around. All right, so moving the left rear to the right rear, etc., etc., turning them around. This seems to have been a major breakthrough for Mercedes-Benz, albeit they lost Lewis Hamilton through to a tire failure. Now that the FIA, together with Pirelli, have come out and said, no, camber has to be X amount, your pressure has to be X amount, and you're not allowed to rotate the tires. All of a sudden, we see Mercedes-Benz, unfortunately, in the same position that they were back in Barcelona. Red Bull, you can change any rules, and they just are unbelievable. All of a sudden, Lotus and Ferrari look a lot stronger than they did in Silverstone, because they're going back to the regulation tire principles that were at the start of the season. It's all very, very complicated. But definitely some teams went backwards. Mercedes seemed to have gone backwards due to these tire rules, and the fact that teams like Force India also seem to have been struggling as well. Now, next week is the young driver test. Now, Mercedes has inquired with the FIA about getting a day of running at the upcoming young driver test to try out Pirelli's new tires. I don't know if they're going to manage to get that passed. as that is the punishment for its secret test earlier this year. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get that. Just to let you know, the rules have changed in terms of the young driver test. Initially, it was that the normal drivers could go there and drive and do all 3 days. This has now changed. The normal drivers of the Formula One cars are only allowed to be at the young driver test for 1 day, and they can only do tire development. That's all. No changing front wings, no adjusting anything, just tire development. So I think it's leveling everything out, and I think Mercedes would do better to just sit there and say, you know what, this is our punishment, that's it. We tried to pull the wool over everybody else, and it didn't really work. Other big stories at the moment is the Sauber team. Apparently a couple of Russian billionaires are looking to take over the Sauber team. It seems as though they seem to be having a couple of financial problems. And Nico Hülkenberg apparently hasn't been paid for a couple of months. It seems as though the team is no longer able to pay his salary. Now, what could happen is that Hülkenberg could cancel his contract, but the whole question is, where would he go? There has been a lot of talk that Hülkenberg might be linked with Lotus if Raikkonen goes to Red Bull, otherwise maybe with Ferrari in place of Felipe Massa. Fernando Alonso has come out and said, we lost out in the opening stages of the race. Well, that's the problem when you qualify so badly. Also, their gamble of going on the medium tyres didn't really work out as much as everyone thought it was going to be. The tyres didn't last as long and didn't give them an edge over the softer compound tyres. One has to also question Lotus as to why they pitted Kimi Raikkonen with only 10 laps to go. I think Raikkonen could have actually held on. But you've got to give credit where credit is due, and that is Sebastian Vettel. Under all sorts of pressure, driving in his home Grand Prix, brilliant start in the race, and controlled the race, even though under huge pressure from Romain Grosjean and from the likes of Kimi Raikkonen. It was great to see some really, really strong, fast action right up front. And also the first time that Vettel has won in Germany, and the first time he's ever won a Formula One race in the month of July. So something very, very special for him. There is a 3-week gap until the next Grand Prix, but we do have the Silverstone Young Drivers Test that takes place next weekend. And then thereafterwards, we will go to the Hungarian Grand Prix. And at the Hungarian Grand Prix, it'll be a brand new spec Pirelli tyre in terms of its construction. The compounds will, however, remain the same.
At the next intersection, turn on Gears with Sasha Martinengo. Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time.